Welcome to Tall Talk Times, a podcast made by tall people.
For tall people.
This is episode number
6, and I'm Tom Garner, and you are...
Letty Saunders.
I'm glad you've remembered.
You're so horrible to me.
I'm only joking.
Pulling my very long leg.
It's just a little joke. Yes. So, Letty, have you had any tall comments directed at you this week?
Somebody nearly fell over their shopping cart, Tom.
Oh, what? Because they saw you?
They were particularly challenged in the height department.
Yes.
And, popped into Waitrose, grabbed a couple of bits, and they, oh my goodness. And it's just,
oh no.
Yeah. I don't know. They may have thought I was a person on top of a person, but I wasn't wearing heels, just wearing my boots, jeans, just in there I was. And no, they were particularly surprised. So no, not really any comments so much. Had a couple when I went to London last week. They were minding my head on the tube, which
was that meant in like politeness and concern, or was it just them being rude?
Well, the fact they were laughing and pointing, I don't think it was a kind thing.
Oh, well, they can get stuffed then, can't they?
Yeah, but I think they'd probably had a few too many.
They're a bit sozzled.
Yeah, but you know what? The other people around, they all sort of like smile, embarrassed for me. But yeah, you get it, don't you?
It is annoying. I mean, sometimes it can be quite amusing. I mean, luckily, recently, I haven't had that many comments, which is always a bit of a surprise to me, but I appreciate the quiet when it happens.
You appreciate them not talking.
Yes, I appreciate the fallow periods of no comments.
But it'd be great though, so we get this beautifully tall, a whole ethos of tall talk time out there, so people know that it's not okay actually to call out, how tall are you? Yeah,
because it's commenting on someone's physical appearance and something moreover that they can't help. Like if you've got like a weird hairdo or something and people make comments, you might think, fair enough, I'll get them.
But I can do something about it.
Yeah, you can do something about it. But if something like height, you can't do anything. It just is. It's immutable.
So no one's actually said to you, hey Tom, you are beautifully tall.
Apart from you just then, which of course I appreciate.
Yeah. I'll take that.
Yeah. But sometimes though, when people make comments, it can be quite amusing, and sometimes it can backfire on people. So I remember, about 10 years ago now, I was walking along a pathway and running parallel to the path was a stream. And I was just taking in, the countryside, the nice surroundings. And an old lady came by on the path on her bicycle.
Okay.
And she was cycling quite slowly, and she cycled past me, and as she was cycling past, she sort of turned around and went, I could see her mouthing, oh bloody hell. But she was concentrating so much on me that she fell into the ditch.
Oh, I would have paid to see that.
With her bike, and I wanted to laugh.
Laugh then.
Except I was offended for one thing.
So you were so offended you couldn't laugh.
I was so offended I couldn't laugh, but also, old lady falls into a ditch. Then you have to go into rescue mode.
No, not if she laughs at me, I don't.
Well, you're more of a savage than I am.
Obviously.
But basically I had to go down and give my arm and to pull her out of it. And not once did she go, I'm really sorry, I shouldn't have turned around.
So you shouldn't have. No,
she was just
trying to stay positive.
She was just. It was a bit of a cartoon scene. She was her arms and legs were flailing about in this ditch. She was covered in reeds.
Good.
And the bicycle back wheel was just turning round and round and round and round. And I think I remember her saying, I don't know what happened there. I don't know what happened. I just fell in.
You were too rude staring at me like that.
Yeah.
Karma was instant.
No, but I think I remember saying, against my better judgment, I said, oh wow, we all do these things.
You are so nice, Tom.
Too nice.
Too nice.
Too nice. I don't know.
And there you are, rescuing someone that was horrible to you.
Yes, but
that's...
in a way, it was karma.
It was instant karma.
Instant karma, as John Lennon once said. Yes.
Absolute instant. I think I stare when people, I can hear them and think the thought.
Yeah.
So I kind of pull them back a bit.
I've got a good tip for when you can see people thinking the thought.
Oh, right, because you can, can't you?
Yeah, so what I do, I walk around in public with a benign, cheeky smile on my face.
Benign, cheeky smile.
Benign, cheeky smile, like eyeballing them and going, yeah, I know you think I'm tall, but I'm just going to walk along and smile.
Walk along and smile. I just raise the left eyebrow and stare at them. And then they go bright red and look away.
Like Roger Moore, lifting the eyebrow.
Yeah, I look like Roger
Moore. Just don't stare at me.
No, just the eyebrow. So very powerful.
Very powerful.
Stop them in their tracks.
If eyebrows could kill.
No, I don't mean any animosity, but, you could just do without it, going about your business.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's simple acts like going to the supermarket. There are times where I just don't want to leave the house going, oh, who's going to say something when I just want to get, my groceries and that sort of thing. But at the same time, we mustn't become recluses. That's not the way forward.
No. So maybe I should be more like you.
What? We're even taller.
No, I'm quite happy with my 6'3". Thank you very much. No, sort of more generous about the numpties who like to insult you by making weird comments on height.
You just got to defeat them with love.
Yeah. Shine so brightly, we burn. In a very positive way, obviously. Yes. But come on, we've all had those moments when you've just had enough. I can't change my height.
No.
So, yeah. Ignore it.
Yes, beautifully tall.
Beautifully tall.
Have that mantra circling around your head if it happens to you.
No, I'm gonna get a load of merchandise done with beautifully tall written on. I'm gonna stand there and wear it. I'm gonna own this.
I think you are. You've already owned it. Sounds fantastic. So I think we should get on with episode 6 of this podcast. So coming up, we have our first independent interview. So last week we had our first interview, but that was with the co-founder, Nat Daniels.
Yeah.
So now we're branching out outside of Tool Talk Times.
Indeed.
And we're going into the world of academia because we are going to talk to Professor James Betts of the University of Bath.
Yes, really interesting chap, this guy.
Yeah, so James Betts, you'll find out later, but he's conducting a survey and he wants tall people to take part.
So do listen, please, and do consider taking part. It's also on a post on the Facebook group, Tool Talk Times.
Exactly. But, of course, before our wonderful interview with Professor Betts...
I really love this bit. I don't know how this all came about, but giants of history.
Giants, it is now time for Giants of History.
Ace!
My favourite time of the week. So...
Who is it this week, Tom?
Well, last week we were in the 17th and 18th century with Tsar Peter the Great. But this week we're fast-forwarding right to the 20th century.
Excellent.
And we're going to the world of literature.
Okay.
So our Giant of History this week is Michael Crichton.
Jurassic Park?
Jurassic Park, indeed. Jurassic Park! So, Alan Partridge references aside. So, Michael Crichton, I found out you pronounced it Crichton, not Crichton, as I thought it was, but my dad corrected me. He said, no, Tom, it's Michael Crichton.
Well, Tom Garner's father, thank you.
Yes, he's clearly much smarter than me. So anyway, Michael Crichton, born in 1942 in Chicago. He was an American author, screenwriter, and filmmaker. Now, he actually trained as a medical doctor at Harvard University, and he graduated in 1969, but he worked as a writer all of his life. He was the author of 26 novels.
26?
26, and his books have sold over 200 million copies worldwide. So the scale of his book sales is matched by his height. He was 6'9" inches.
Brilliant.
That's 206 centimetres.
He's very beautifully tall.
Very, very beautifully tall. And you've bounced onto a fact there, which we'll come on to at the end.
Go on.
But for now...
No, you tease.
Well, no, you got to wait. So,
again.
So, but we need to go into his career before we get onto his height. So his most famous novel is probably Jurassic Park, which was published in 1990. And it was later adapted into a blockbuster film, of course, by Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
Crichton also wrote the sequel to Jurassic Park called The Lost World, which Spielberg again adapted in 1997. The Jurassic Park movie franchise has continued with various films and is one of the highest grossing film series of all time, having earned over $6 billion at the worldwide box office. But that's not all to his career. He's more than just dinosaurs running amok. So he was the author of The Andromeda Strain, The Terminal Man, The Great Train Robbery.
No, I love that.
Yeah, all sorts of things. And he directed films as well. So he directed a film called Westworld in 1973.
Don't know that one.
Well, you might not know it, but it was the first film to use two-dimensional CGI.
Wow.
So he was quite ahead of his time. And in fact, most of his novels focus on science fiction, technology, and medicine, hence his medical background. He also created the TV drama ER. Remember that?
Wow. God,
Yeah.
that's how...
That's how George Clooney got his break.
Smooth Clooney.
Yeah. And so he got a very, very impressive career, had Michael Crichton. But as we said earlier, he was 6'9" tall. And like many tall people, as a teenager, he felt very isolated by his height, and he was heavily bullied.
Yeah, hate bullies.
Oh, I hate bullies too. They're awful. And he later wrote, "I wasn't comfortable. I remember thinking I was the tallest person in the world."
Oh, bless him.
He also wrote in a 1988 memoir that older kids would chase him home from school and knock him down.
Oh.
This made him become withdrawn, and he suffered from depression in later life.
Oh, no.
On the flip side, the bullying made him determined to succeed, and he once wrote, "I am smart, and I'm going to show them all."
And he has.
Now, obviously, his height was very noticeable for those who came across him, and there are lots of famous people who talked about his height. So Steven Spielberg, for one, said that Crichton was the tallest man he'd ever met. But I did find a lovely quote from George Clooney.
Oh, wow, come on.
Who obviously, his career was made by being cast in ER.
Yes.
And he said that Michael was always referred to as a Renaissance man. That's because he was so good at so many things. A doctor, writer, director, and he was a stunning 6'9" figure. He would walk in the room, and all the rest of us mortals felt somewhat inadequate. It was something you had to see. He could reduce giant stars and brilliant directors to little kids looking up to this gentle giant. Now, if that's not a beautifully tall quote, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I'm going to have to read that again.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But also, he knew Michael Douglas as well. And so Michael Douglas wrote, "He was a stone-cold genius. He really was a gentle giant. Very shy, but intimidating. This guy was off the charts as far as intellect was concerned." Now, clearly, he was a much-loved figure, but he remained self-conscious about his height during his life. And in his early writing career, he used 2 pseudonyms that alluded to it.
Okay.
So the first one was, his first pseudonym was John Lang, with Lang being German for long.
Okay.
The second was even more genius. The second was Jeffrey Hudson. Now you might think Jeffrey Hudson, that doesn't mean anything, but it was ironic because Jeffrey Hudson was a 17th century historical figure. He was a small person at the court of King Charles I of England, and so Crichton picked out this obscure historical reference and put it into his writing. It's fantastic. Apparently, during the 1970s to 80s, he would consult psychics and gurus to make him feel more socially acceptable with regards to his height and to improve his confidence.
Well, that's all Tall Talk Times is. It's about improving confidence for tall people.
We would certainly have him in this group. Where sadly he passed away a few years ago, but we'd definitely have him in his group.
I don't want anyone feeling lonely and depressed because of their height.
No. Well, he certainly wasn't lonely, and I'll tell you why. So, despite being self-conscious about his height, he did not suffer from a lack of female attention. And he was actually married 5 times. I mean, that's nudging towards Henry VIII standards.
Elizabeth Taylor standards.
Yeah, bonkers. So,
well, I don't know. He hasn't given up on love. That's not bonkers.
Well, no, of course not. But clearly, people saw him as a beautifully tall person. And what you alluded to earlier is my last point about this great man.
Go on.
So his height was actually a factor in being physically acclaimed. So in 1992, he was ranked among People magazine's 50 most beautiful people.
Brilliant.
So the epitome of beautifully tall.
The epitome of beautifully tall.
And Jurassic Park is awesome.
Not that you're biased at all.
I'm biased.
No, I mean, a talented, beautifully tall man.
Yeah, and he didn't let people's bullying get to him. In fact, he turned it into clearly a massive success.
Yeah, you don't feel like that when you're being bullied, though, do you?
Oh, no, and bullying is the worst thing. I think people often... It's funny, when you're an adult, people don't talk about what happened to them in childhood with regards to bullying, but it leaves... If it happens to you, and it happened to me, I won't lie, it leaves a massive mark.
Yes, me too.
And it can either And in my opinion, it can either destroy you or it can make you. As in, like, you cannot let it get. You can use it to your own advantage to go, well, I'm not going to beat you. They're not going to beat me.
No.
Same as like Michael Crichton thought. I'm smart and I'll show them what I can do.
Yeah, there is that. And there is owning your own height, being comfortable. It's very difficult to, especially teenagers, as you become tall and you stand out more.
Yeah.
You go through so much anyway, and then you have that extra thing on top that's bullying because you're tall.
Yeah, and because you're so much taller, there is nowhere to hide at all.
No, you have to own it.
Yeah, you have to own it. But of course, when you're a teenager, owning something like that is so difficult.
Well, yeah, it is. But we don't want anyone feeling lonely or sad about their height.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
But I think we can all take a leaf out of Michael Crichton's book.
Absolutely. He's an inspirational. He's taken that nasty experience that he had in his youth and he's used that energy to create something beautiful for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, I really loved researching this one because I knew he'd been a very tall man. Obviously, I knew about Jurassic Park, but to find out it rang a lot of bells with Michael Crichton.
The only thing I'm not too happy about is Michael Douglas saying that he was intimidating, because he doesn't sound like an intimidating man. Is it just because of his height?
I think he just meant it in terms of his height.
Yeah,
because I can accidentally intimidate people without meaning to. I think it's just simply the physical presence. So I don't think Michael Douglas meant it in a bad way. And the quote doesn't leap off the page like that.
Yeah, I mean, I had somebody say the other day, Letty's not intimidating you. You are just intimidated. That's very eloquent. Like, so, yeah, I think it's probably just the height, but I wish people wouldn't use intimidating and height interchangeably.
Yeah, and if people who are shorter than the taller youngsters feel intimidated, don't feel intimidated. We're all human.
Yeah. Yeah, we may be a little bit touchy about you asking us our height, but that's only because we've heard it a million times.
A million times before.
Thanks, brilliant time. Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome. So, Letty, it's interview time.
It is.
So
indeed.
I think it's time to get on with our interview of the week with Professor
James Betts from University of Bath.
Yes.
Is establishing the metabolic and nutritional requirements of individuals with extreme body morphology. It's a two-day thing. There are loads of wonderful scans that you can have, a full body MOT, and participate in a study that will help people with our height.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's very rare that an opportunity comes like this for tall people, because I think our height is not. It's a kind of an under-researched area of the human anatomy.
Well, medication. It's done by person. It's not done by weight or height or how do these things affect us?
Yeah, quite.
Well, James is doing that study.
Yeah, he's an ultra professional guy, which is what you need for a survey like that.
Yeah, and to be able to pop in and have a look around if you want to before you do the study as well is really helpful. He's trying to put everybody's mind at ease in the best possible way.
Oh yeah, and guys, you get a trip to Bath.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bath.
Bath, darling.
Sorry, North-South divide.
Absolutely Bath.
I cannot change. And refuse to.
No, you don't need to change, Tom.
I'm going
to
Bath.
But it's not far from me, so yeah, I'm going to pop over. I'm very interested in doing this.
You'll have to let us know how you get on.
I will. I think it's a documenting the whole process thing, so other people can be rest assured. Yeah. I'm just really interested as well about how our tall bodies are different, how they metabolize differently.
You know why, don't you?
No.
Because we're amazing.
We are. Yeah. We are good. We are amazing.
Yeah.
We're beautifully tall people.
Beautifully tall. Yeah. So
I don't know how tall James is.
No, I don't know either. It's hard to tell over the phone, isn't it?
Well, there's something actually when I go in and have a look around to see how long the beds are, all of those beds.
Yeah.
The scan machines, the beds.
You have a good look at the equipment then.
I will. And yeah, I'm going to have a good look at the equipment, and I'm promised a coffee.
Yes, and food. I like the fact that food's brought in for you. Like, all right.
I'm not so worried about the food, but I am the coffee.
Treated like a king. Sounds great.
So when are you doing it, Tom?
I will give it a good old think.
Yeah, do.
I will.
You're gonna chuck in your co-host as a
My only
guinea pig
concern
first.
is because I bet they'll take my measurements, and I'll have to find out my actual height finally.
Wow, Tom.
Yeah.
Come on.
I'm all right. Part of me likes the mystery.
He doesn't have to tell you, you know. He can take the height without you knowing.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I don't need to know how tall you are, Tom.
No.
But I'd love for you to be confident enough to know how tall you are yourself.
Well, it'll come. It'll come one day.
We'll work on that.
Yeah, it'll work on that.
We'll do a whole special podcast just on Tom's height.
Well, speaking of podcasts, what is coming up for next week?
Next week? Which episode would that be? We've done loads now, haven't we?
Next week, unbelievably, will be episode 7.
Episode 7.
Lucky number 7.
Lucky number 7.
Yeah.
Next week we have a real favourite interview of mine.
Oh, yes.
Very charming man.
Yes, do tell.
Our eldest member of Tall Talk Times, Mr. Phil Daniel.
Father of Nat.
Father of Nat. You know where he was in World War II.
I do. He was a baby in Kent.
He was a baby
but he has got a story about it.
He does. So do tune in because that's a really interesting story. And yeah, we have a lot of younger members. That's fabulous. But we also have a few older ones. So the range is fabulous.
I know. So we've got a Blitz baby. And how's the youngest member of our...
Oh, that would be Merlin.
So he is
18.
So that is quite a range. So we've got World War II and deep into the 21st century.
18 to 84, I think.
Yeah, which is fantastic. I mean, I'm so glad there's such a nice range of people because that makes us very inclusive, which is what we want.
Well, yeah, I mean, tall doesn't know age, does it?
Exactly. And also, as well as Phil's interview, we also have Giants of History.
Again.
Yes.
And then I like the Giants of History.
Don't say again like that. I love it and you love it and I hope the listeners love it.
Yes, I love it too. But I do like teasing you, Tom.
Yes.
It gets you all...
It gets me all riled up.
Gets you all riled up. I don't go out much.
To give you a little teaser, listeners, our Giant of History next week is from the high seas, a pirate no less. And that's all I'm going to tell you.
Oh, come on, you've got to guess.
No.
Guys, you've got to guess out there.
No.
Listeners, please do tune in next week. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yes.
Tall Talk Times podcast. Thank you, Tom.
So, James, thank you very much for taking part in this interview today. So I was just wondering, so just to confirm, you're from the university, so you're Professor of Metabolic Physiology at the University of Bath, is that correct?
That's right, yes. I'm based here in the Centre for Nutrition, Exercise and Metabolism.
Sure. And the reason we've got in touch with is that you're running a particular study. Could you give listeners a sense of what the study is and why you're doing it?
Yes, so this study, we're really fundamentally interested in the effect of body size and scale on metabolism and health. Because so much of what we know about the body and so many health guidelines will just conveniently say this is based on the average person, but almost nobody is the average person, and a lot of people deviate quite a lot from average, and it's not fair that health guidelines, recommendations, and medical thresholds don't really apply to these groups. So we were really keen to do a study where we can compare people with different combinations of body size to see really what their data would look like.
That's great. Thank you.
That's fabulous. I was speaking with you on a video call last week, James, which was really very interesting because you were explaining about the different types of scans that you do in the test.
Yes, so whereas most people, when they're at home trying to understand their health, they tend to just have to stand on a bathroom scale and you just get your weight, or perhaps individuals they might be aware of their waistline or something. That's really not helpful in understanding how much fat or muscle you have or how this relates to health, because if somebody's just a taller or shorter person, then, as I say, the thresholds that people use for an average size person for body mass index or waist size might not apply.
Sure.
So what we're able to do here at Bath is we have a couple of more sophisticated scans. One is called a DEXA scan, where you lay on a bed and it takes 7 or 8 minutes and can then use X-rays to scan and tell you how much bone, muscle, and fat you have on different parts of the body.
Yeah.
And the other scan we use is called a PQCT scan, and that can take cross-sections up your limbs And again, we can see how dense or how much there is of different tissues like muscle mass and fat mass on different parts of the body.
That's incredible.
That sounds fantastic, James. And for our benefits, what benefits will there be for the tool community and tool individuals?
So I think there's really two answers to that question in terms of the benefit that a person gets from a study like this. One is personal, and one is more to kind of give back to the whole community. The personal one is that individual really gets an overall health MOT, and all these measurements would then be taking into account their height, so that we wouldn't just be applying a general textbook answer to say this is a score that's too high or too low. So the individual would get these scans done that most people don't have access to, or at least would have to pay hundreds of pounds to have done. But also we take samples, we would do meal tests collecting blood and expired breath samples from people to really give you a breakdown of the lipids or fats in your blood, things like cholesterol, your glucose and insulin levels, all of the kind of measurements that would tell us how healthy the body is. So the individual taking part then gets a really good picture of the current state of their body, their metabolic health, and their lifestyle. Actually, we do some analysis of that person's diet and living patterns. But then also, you would get to know that when we put that person's data with everybody else from the study that we're conducting, we could start to develop guidelines that actually help doctors, dietitians, physical trainers to come up with more appropriate device. And so as a participant, you'd know that you'd contributed to that for the rest of the community and for future generations.
Yeah, I mean, when we spoke, you were talking about the help from the tool community, getting more tool people to step up and get involved, James. So I've actually spoken with both of my sons and a couple of other people. So you should have a good half a dozen from Tool Talk Times.
Yes, thank you. And we're really keen to get a representative group from the tool community. So, we want to see men and women, young and old, people who are very slim and lean, people who might think that they have some extra body fat and they'd like to understand how that's affecting their health. So, we really want a really broad cross-section of people from the tool community so that our findings can apply to everybody.
That sounds fantastic, James. So where will the information be kept from this study, and who will be able to access it?
Yes, so at the University of Bath, as with all universities in this country, you can be assured that the data are stored securely, confidentially here. It's all consistent with the current data protection regulations in the UK. So when you volunteer, there's myself running the study and my PhD student, Lucy, and she's studying towards her doctorate in this area. So any forms you completed that have your own identifiable information on stay here in my office all locked up, and all of your data is then completely anonymized from that point. That's never shared with anybody. And then when at the end of the study, all this data is used for is to publish a paper in a scholarly journal so that we can get the findings out there to doctors. And that's not then your individual results being shared, but at a group level, the study going out to say the whole group of people we tested, this was the kind of result and this is what it means. So you can rest assured that your data are not being shared with any other organizations and are being stored confidentially and anonymously here at Bath.
That's brilliant, James. That will really reassure a lot of our listeners on the podcast and within the Facebook group, where we will promote this again for you. I know we have started on that. When we had our meeting, James, we were talking about maybe documenting it with some photographs so people can get a rough idea. If they then still have questions, can they contact you, and whereabouts can they contact you?
Yeah, so if people want to get in touch, then they can look me up or email me, James Betts. My details are on the university website. The email address is j.betts, B-E-T-T-S, @bath.ac.uk. I don't know if you can share that somewhere.
Yes, of course.
Always happy to answer questions. I'm aware that sometimes people would feel a bit apprehensive about taking part in a study like this. I'd be very happy if anybody wants to come and visit the university just to have a coffee, to come into the lab. They can see what it's all about, and I can explain the samples. And so that tends to put people's mind at rest if they want to come and see how things run here. There's obviously no obligation to take part. If they just want to come and ask questions about it, then that's fine.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much, James, for your time in talking to us today. I hope that people will be able to take up volunteering for this study after they've listened to it on the podcast.
Yeah, I hope they do. And I think the one question, before I forget, that people will often get in touch and ask is they will say, when is this happening?
Yes.
And the answer to that is it's happening whenever they want it to happen. We'll be testing for the next year or so, and we completely work around the availability of, if any of you are kind enough to give up your time for this, we will test whenever you would like to test. It involves one full day and night in our laboratory here. So you arrive one evening, we give you an evening meal, and you stay over to do a sleep study. And then the next day, you're just laying in bed being brought meals. And we will run that day any time that suits you, including weekends, whichever works best for our volunteers. And yeah, so it's one day and night here in the laboratory. And then you go back to your normal life for 2 weeks, wearing a load of glucose monitor on your arm and an activity monitor on your chest, just so we can get a feel of your lifestyle for 2 weeks.
Well,
that's the full...
I was just wondering if I get to lie down and be fed regular meals, that's fine by me.
Whilst being prodded and poked for the greater good. Hey, James.
Yeah, that's it. So yes, there are blood samples, so it's worth people being aware of that if they're squeamish with blood. But it's a very friendly environment, and you can rest assured that it's all very safe, and we're highly qualified in doing all those things.
Oh, that's brilliant. I think I'll take you up on that. I love coffee, and I think I'll take you up on that offer to pop in and have a coffee, have a look around, take a few snaps and put them up on the group to reassure people, and then maybe just then with all the contact details, we'll be able to get a group of more beautifully tall people to even up the odds, because I know that you need tall people for this study. You haven't got enough so far.
That's correct, yes. We're testing tall people and small people. So just as a brief background, my own son has a form of skeletal dysplasia, which means that he's got disproportionate stature. So although his torso is average size, he has short limbs, which is what got me thinking about the differences in body size. So we're already testing a lot of very small people, and we also want to test a group of tall people as well, and that's where I'm very grateful to you helping us trying to recruit, because it's not an easy thing to reach out and find people who fit both categories.
Oh, well, Tall Talk Times are happy to help, absolutely happy to help. And James, thank you so much for your time.
Yes, thank you. Thanks very much for your time. It's been really useful.
Thank you.
Thank you ever so much.
That's great. Thank you very much, James. Cheers.